We are reviewing a work of a student, and she has written about uh, a story with the title "The Door." Let's start how it has started. It says begin with one word sentence, which is called a minor. It says forbidden, okay, and then it begins. That's what it was like. But the human mind, especially my inquisitive nature, compelled me. So when something is out of limits, it attracts me. Everything was accessible, but that door, located at the end of the hall upstairs of a new house. The student had written the word house, whereas I've suggested that you should write the word abode. Okay. When I moved in, the landlord had mentioned several times, that was repetition, so it needs to be ignored. That door was out of limits. If anyone would put their own lives at risk, if that room was entered, all right. Student had written entered, so where I've suggested that it should be written approached. Okay. So now when you change one word, it actually changed the everything around. Like when you write anyone, if that room was entered, all right. Okay, and when you're replacing the word entered with approached, it makes more vivid sense. Like, what if someone reaches to that door? Then they will have to bear the consequences. This is how it is being written there. Now, can you see in the above few lines, we have added a bit of characterization, it says, especially my inquisitive nature compelled me. So instead of writing a generic statements, uh, in the text, it's better to write character specific statement, because as a reader we want to know what the character is, what is he thinking, and what kind of nature is he having. So it's a very nature of a narrative writing. It's a very important feature of a narrative writing, that there should be details of characters. So, what do characters think? How do they look like? All right, what are their intentions? So, so instead of writing generic statements, it's important to write down statements or lines which could add value to character, all right, which could tell the reader more about characters. Okay, so the student had written the generic line. He said she had written that, but the human mind, um, um, you know, is sort of mind that whenever you ask humans to stay away from something, then or refrain from something, then they will do it deliberately. I said instead of writing a generic statement, it's better to write a character specific statement. Okay. Let me see. Someone has asked something in the chat window. When will the class end? At 1 o'clock. We have a marathon class from 11 to 1. We'll take a break of 10 minutes in between, and then we'll have, well, you all will join back. All right. So the opening paragraph of the story has engaged the reader and has ample narrative features which could help the student to get marks. All right. It has creative element, it has the elements of language, it has the elements of narrative as well. Okay. So from the opening paragraph, we can sense that what is going to happen next. All right. So once you're done reading the opening paragraph, as a reader, Junaid, what do you think would happen next?
So from where? Forbidden?
Yes.
I don't know.
So after reading the opening paragraph, okay, What do you, is the story helping you to guess what is going to happen next? Can you read opening paragraph once more? Junaid, I'm talking to you. Can you please read opening paragraph?
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Please read on mic.
Forbidden. Sir, interesting use of the one word sentence. ये भी पढ़ना है?
Yeah, you can ignore that. Yes.
Okay, that's what it was like, but the human mind, so especially my inquisitive nature, made compelled me. So as a compelled,
That's compelled.
compelled. So ये क्या होता
Compelled means forced me. All right.
है? Okay, so that when something is out of limits, it attracts me. Everything was accessible, but that door, which located at the end of the hall upstairs of her new house, a door, abode. So abode क्या होता है ये?
Abode means house. All right.
Okay, of her new house. When I moved in, the landlord had mentioned several times that the door was out of limits, as if anyone would put their own lives at risk if that room was entered. So a mysterious door.
Or approached. Okay. So what, after reading the opening paragraph, what do you guess is going to happen next?
There is a mysterious door in the house, corner of the house.
I'm
So
sorry,
can
Junaid, can
I
you
add
come up
something
again?
by myself?
What, yes.
Yes, sir.
Can you come up again? Can you say it again? What do you think is going to happen next in the story? Just after reading the opening paragraph.
So there is a mysterious door behind which is like something unknown, I guess, something creature like thing.
Yes, so there's something this is a mysterious story, all right? Something mysterious is going to happen next. So this is what you as a writer needs to establish in your opening paragraph, that you convince your reader with your writing style that that they continue reading next, one thing. And second thing is, you give a hint to your reader what is the genre of the story, what type of story they are going to read further, or what future events are going to happen. Like, just after reading the opening paragraph, Junaid was able to say that okay, something mysterious is going to happen. All right, or maybe a mystery is going to be solved next, and that is what you need to do as a writer. So instead of traditional starting it in a traditional or cliche way, all right, telling about the settings, what is the character doing, what is happening around. All right. So this is a different way to start your story. You can start um, with the technique of minor sentences, like one word sentences being used, forbidden. All right. You can tell that um, you know what you can establish the genre of your story in the beginning as well. Okay, you can add a bit of characterization in the story. Now we know this is a first person narrative, and the character who is involved in the story, who's acting as a narrator right now, okay, is is quite a curious personality, inquisitive, mean curious, who wants to know things, who has that uh you know who has that curiosity, intuition that whenever something is asked to him that he should not do, he will definitely do. All right. So now let's look at the second paragraph and let's see how events are unfolded further. Okay. Now let's look at here. Okay, who's this now? Yes, Talib, I will check your narrative after the class. All right. Okay. So, but after midnight, there would be sounds heard in the hall, which would come from that room, with its door decorated, um, with its doors decorated with three separate locks. Okay? When the sun would come up, no one would mention it. It was an unstated rule. All right? Now, this is a bit of abrupt paragraph. It doesn't make sense. Two things have been said here, but there's no transition in it. Okay, but what we can sense as a reader from here that it clearly says about midnight, you people could hear noises from that door. All right, and its door has been decorated with three separate locks. Okay, now I don't know why the writer has used the word decorated over here because uh and why three locks are mentioned because that's a mystery that is being established. Okay. And then that's why I've written over transition is missing. So we can't, as a reader, we can't make out what is the writer trying to say. Okay. Now let's look at the next paragraph. It was a night like no other, with me eating the leftover burrito from the day before, when I heard it knock, knock, knock. The clock read 2:30. As silent as one could, I opened the door. Slowly, I marched towards the door. Okay, there's a lot of repetition of the word door, door, door. All right, and there's no harm in because the theme of the story is all about door. Okay, I opened the door. Slowly, I marched towards it with the wooden floor under my foot, creaking with every step. Okay, the door was slightly opened, almost inviting me to open it. Now, this is a mistake that one must avoid. Repetition of same words. Open, opened, all right. And there are other lexical choices that student could have written, other words as well. Who is there? Whispered my voice. So I've written a comment here. There is no need to write, reporting speech in dialogues, in narrative. Like, who is there? I said, he said. At times, we can remove this kind of reporting speech from the story because that is also going to enrich and help you to score better marks. Um, because once you remove reporting speech, it makes your writing slightly complicated. Okay, and which is a good technique. My eyes fell on the book that was placed in the center. As I walked towards it, it seemed like something was holding me back, but I was adamant. All right. Noah, are you there? Noah?
Yes, sir.
All right. Noah, can you please read from here, this paragraph onwards?
Uh, Trembling as soon as I placed my hand on the journal, the room started to spin and this aggressive scream sounded in the room. With the speed of light, I had been placed in a long, seemingly endless hall with uncountable doors placed along each side. Reluctant, my legs took me to the first door within my reach, locked. I was starting to panic when the door closed by were locked. How was I going to escape? Can someone hear me? I uttered. My glance fell open on door in the middle of the hall.
Okay, now see, this is a monologue that she has added. Can someone hear me? How was I going to escape? Can someone hear me? All right, I uttered when my glance fell upon a door in the middle of the hall. Okay, so now over here, uh, we could clearly relate to the narrator that how is she feeling, right? And how did when she approached the journal, all right, the room started to spin. I've just added one comment over here that use a simile. How did it spin? Because figurative language adds value to your narration. Okay, so if the candidate could have written that how did it spin, that would definitely make more sense. Otherwise, this descriptive paragraph is fairly managed well with the narrative skills. Okay, and we could sense that the candidate has used um, monologue also, or a dialogue of the character, which shows that how panic stricken the character is, and how is she feeling as she is being trapped in a room where there are lots of doors and they all are actually closed. And she's saying that I'm standing in the middle of a seemingly endless hall, and where there are uncountable doors. Okay, so this is a good addition to the narrative writing, telling that what character is feeling, what is he going through, what is he thinking. All right, and a very good use of visual imagery is being placed here, that where she's telling what a character could see. Now, as a reader, we can sense lots of things. Okay, um, we can clearly, when we are reading, we can clearly visualize everything around us. Okay, that what how character started to move in towards the door, or and how did the room begin to spin. Okay, what did she hear? There were aggressive screams. Okay, and then there was a panic being created. And now let's see what's going to happen next. All right, Noah, please continue reading the next paragraph. Okay, I'm just going to press enter here. Yes, so that, yes, please read it from here. With a click, the portal opened.
With a click, the portal opened, and again the same journal was placed in the middle of the space. But this time the pages were filled. 19 January 1956, it read, "My father never lost his life naturally. It was taken from him." Was penned on the journal entry. I was dumbfounded. Whose journal was it? 25 January 1956. I have to inform everyone about the truth. However, I fear my last days are soon to come. I looked around. Was this the reason for the constant knocking the haunted room? With another few more entries read, I knew enough. The writer of the journal had wanted the truth to come to the surface, although it had been several years after the truth had been. सर आगे uh, had been discovered, the job was done. Do you want me to tell? I said out loud. Silence. I assumed that. That's a yes. That's a yeast.
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you. That's yes, actually. All right.
Uh,
Now, can you see that the student had written, "Do you want me to tell the world," in small letters? Whereas I have suggested that she should have written, "Do you want me to tell?" All right. Do you want in capital letters? Okay. This is also a narrative feature. When your character says something out loud, all right, screams something, all right, and says that in panic situation. Though people usually, the writers, they always capitalize it because capitalization gives a feeling to the reader that it was said, it was said out loud. Okay, so that's what you need to do. Do you want me to tell? I said out loud. Silence. There was a silence at the end. I assumed that was a yes. All right. Again, a yes was written in a capital letter. So adding these small features in your writing, uh, at few points capitalizing things, okay, to create effect, okay, and at few points adding adjectives with your with nouns or pronouns, or maybe adding similes or figurative language, they actually complement your narrative. Now you can see uh, using noun as a verb. We all know pen is a noun, all right. So, but it over here, pen has been used as a verb here. You know, was penned on the journal instead of writing that was written on the journal. It's better to write was penned on the journal. Okay. Okay. So, and then the repetition of the same line, 19 January 1956. So, 25th January 1956. Okay, that's what written over here. See? So there's a transition of events that is happening from 19 January to 25th January, which tells the reader that how events are correlated. Okay? So now we can see, let's see what is written in the last paragraph and how the ending has been made uh, more engaging. Okay, Noah, can you please read the last paragraph?
Before I stood up, a feeling urged.
This is urged.
Before I stood up, a feeling urged me to destroy the journal, and so I did. In a matter of seconds, the torn pieces of the journal were scattered across the floor. In the next, uh, and in the next, they went up in the flames. The next moment, I was back at the room where it all started. The general had disappeared, and a whoosh of air went through my hair. I opened the door swiftly, walked back to my room, and continued eating my leftover burrito. But this time, with contented stomach and heart filled
Nice.
with satisfaction.
Okay, so the student had written that earlier, but this time with both my stomach and heart filled with satisfaction. I've just suggested her that she could have written with, but this time with contented stomach and heart. That would be the ending. Now we can see a clear transition from one part of the story to another. The story all started off with, there are multiple events in the story, and it all started off with uh, forbidden door, and it all ended with solving the mystery. Like Junaid in the beginning said, when I asked him what would be the opening paragraph all about, and he said that categorically, okay, it's going to be about mystery, it's going to be something, a mystery will be solved. All right, and now you can see at the end of the story, a mystery was being solved. Okay, so this is how the
Yeah,
story
sir.
has.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, dear.
In first para, there is a suspense.
There's what?
Suspense.
Yeah, there's suspense. All right. And the suspense has been deliberately created by the writer. Okay. And it is written by Meera, you- a student of your class, by the way. All right. And this is what you all can do. Just keep the bits and pieces in your mind that how to use different techniques to create suspense or use different narrative features in writing to get marks. Okay. So look at the paragraphing. Each paragraph has its own theme. Okay. Has its own, we usually say that uh, style of writing. It has its own topic sentence. All right. Because first paragraph is telling us about a bit of suspense. The second paragraph is telling us about what happened on that night. All right. The next paragraph is telling us, why did she approach that door at 2:30? All right. And later on, we came to know that how door, the entire room began to spin. Okay. And the journal showed up. Okay. And then there was a mystery here about 19 January 1956 death of of someone's a mystery of a father. All right. And then in the end, the story closed, and now she's again peaceful and eating her burrito. All right. And that's the complete transition of a story. Okay. And all the elements of story has been taken care of. When we talk about narrative curve, starting with settings, rising action, so problem, then rising action, then climax, then falling action, and then the resolution. So all the elements of story are there in this piece of writing. So Talib, did you find the story interesting and engaging? Is Talib here? Talib is here. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let me ask Ibrahim Yasser. Ibrahim Yasser? No. Right. Why not, sir? Why not Talib? Ibrahim Yasser, please unmute your mic and tell me what are the good points of the story and how the story could have been improved further. All of you, read the story once more and share in the chat window that what are the two good points of the story and what are the two ways to improve the story further. Okay? Junaid, by the way, what's your idea? How many marks would this student get out of 40? Yes, Junaid? Out of 40, how many marks? Okay, there's something in the chat window. All right, let me just check that. Okay. Junaid, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, marks.
So what?
Marks. Mark it out of 40. How many marks would this candidate get?
Sir, I can't report you. आपकी voice ही नहीं आ रही.
Marks. Can you mark this work, please, out of 40?
Okay, so I will give them 30.
T. All right. Why
हाँ सर
30?
कैम्ब्रिज की मार्किंग स्ट्रिक्ट होती है. सर
Yes.
कैम्ब्रिज की मार्किंग स्ट्रिक्ट होती है.
Yes, it is. Why 30? Why you have to be given 30 marks, by the way?
सर ये थोड़ा like more extend कर सकता था story को अपनी.
What happened? Extend हो गई है? लंबी हो गई है?
नहीं सर और लंबी कर सकता था ये
नहीं
अपनी
तो और
story
लंबी
को.
करने की
कि
जरूरत
जो
नहीं
भी
क्या?
है.
Your word limit is 350 to 450. She is within the range.
सर सर मैं रीड नहीं किया मैंने.
That's what I'm asking you to please read it once more and then guess how many marks would the student get. I'm shading a criteria upon which you get marks in 0500 paper. Okay. So you can see that, and then you can tell me you have two tables upon which you get marks. Table A is called composition, which talks about content and structure. So there are different levels. We'll look at level 6 and level 5 only. This table has 16 marks altogether. All right. So you get level 6 marks, which lower range is 14 and upper range is 16. Okay. And if the plot is well defined and strongly developed with features of fiction writing, such as description, characterization, effective climax, and convincing details. If these elements are included, then the students get level 6 marks, either 14 or 16. All right. So from table A, we're looking at narrative because the student has written narrative. So we can clearly see that, the plot is well defined. We can see there are features of fiction writing as well. She has used characterization. There was a bit of climax. It wasn't though effective. Okay. So few of the details are convincing. Anyway. So, but if we look at level 5, it says the plot is defined and developed with features of fiction such as description, characterization, climax, and details. I would not say that details that she has used those were convincing, but I can sense that those details were there. So that's why I will actually give her 11 marks out of 16, level 5. Okay. Now, when we go towards table B, table B. Now, over here, these are the marks for style and accuracy. All right. So I would suggest that she's on level 5 here again. No, sorry, level 4, because she has used some precise vocabulary. There's a repetition of lots of words, similar words. That's why I'll be giving her level 4. And level 4 maybe 16, not 13, not lower level. Okay. There are range of sentences anyway. Okay. And the register and context is appropriate. Spelling and punctuation and generally they are accurate, but there are few errors because Uspe, if we look at the case where she has used a conjunctive adverb, however, she has used just comma, not the semicolon. Okay, and then there are places where I've placed commas myself between but and before and after but I've placed comma. So there are few slips of punctuation errors anyway. So that's why I'm giving her, um, you know, level 4, 16 marks here. So 16 from table B and 13, yes, all right. 11 from table A. 11 and 11 and 16. How many marks are these then? 27. 27 out of 40. I've given 27 out of 40 to her. And this is the same criteria for 05. This is the criteria for 0500 to check narrative or descriptive writing. There's the examiners, they keep this table in front of them and then they mark accordingly. Okay. So this is what you should all have very clear idea that, oh, how would I be getting marks in narrative writing? Okay. I'll also share a criteria of 1, 1, 2, 3, how you get marks. So you also get marks according to table 1 and table B. Table 1 is also about composition, but your marks are 10 and 15. Okay, table B is of style. I want all of you to please go through the table once more and then we'll take a 10 minutes break and we'll join again. Okay, so on the request of Talib, we'll be having 15 minutes break. Are you happy now, Talib? I'm sharing a table upon which you get marks in 1123 paper. So table A, again, content and structure. All right. In content and structure, they look at these things here. All right. Description for narrative writing. They look at these things. Scenario establish. What are the settings? How atmosphere? All right. What senses have been used?